Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and we're looking at the Restoration Shaman. Yes, we are. The big healer, the big Shaman healer, doing quite well for itself. Had a little bit of a rocky start, but has certainly come into its own now in Blackrock Foundry, doing very, very well. A lot of people after a Resto Shaman in their raid because they have such niche abilities, and they're a wonderful class to play. I actually very, very much enjoy playing the Restoration Shaman. I've had a great time learning it and playing around with it and practicing all sorts of shifting totems to the right place and being aware of all the intricacies. And that's what we're going to teach you today, is how to manage this, okay? What we have here is a class that has a lot of synergies between its spells. Riptide has certain effects. Earthshield has certain effects. All these things work together so you can make decisions. Very much so, this is a class that is right tool for the right job, which means you have to constantly evaluate your scenario presented to you with your raid frame, so how the raid is looking, and then make decisions based on that. Make the wrong decision and you can end up in a mess later in the fight. Remember, we are in War as a Draenor. That means that DPS are responsible for themselves more so than ever before. Which means, yes, you can do tremendous amounts of healing on demand and burst. You have things like Healing Tide, Spirit Link, Ascendance, Healing Rains. You can spam endless chain heals, but later on in the fight, that's really going to cost you. And you have to be wise. You have to be on the case with this kind of thing. Okay, so we're going to talk through it today and hopefully help you make those decisions and be more comfortable making them. So we pick up Earthshield, obviously. Earthshield is a wonderful spell, usually placed on the tanks, okay? It protects the target with an earthen shield, increasing the effectiveness of your healing spells, okay? Shaman healing spells on that target by 20% and causing attacks to heal them for 2,900, which is ain't great, but it's something, right? This effect can only occur once every few seconds, thank God. Oh, God, those of you who played a Resto Shaman will remember the awful, awful time where Earthshield could just proc all the time, and you just ended up spamming it constantly. Earthshield can only be placed on one target, so which means you have to be really on the case with your Earthshield. You're going to be swapping this thing a lot. Have it on a good, solid, easy-to-find keybind, okay? Have it bound to something nice, because tank swaps will happen way before Earthshield runs out, in most cases, okay? Which means you're not going to be just refreshing it. You're actively going to be seeking out the tanks to do it. So we get Chain Heal, which is pretty cool, and we also get Healing Wave. And Healing Wave has changed a little bit. Previously, if you played Mists of Pandaria, you'll be forgiven for doing this a lot, which is like when there's downtime and not a lot going on, is spamming sort of Healing Waves and being more conscious of things like tidal waves, which you get from your Riptide, which reduces cast time of the next Healing Wave reduced, okay? You'd be forgiven for being in that habit, but you have to break it. Healing Wave is not a greatly efficient spell. That doesn't mean you don't use it. It's not that. But right tool for the right job. Are you going to get a good benefit out of Healing Wave? Are you? Is it worth casting that 32k heal? Ask yourself that before you start just mindlessly spamming it and ending up in a mess. Chain Heal, the same thing. Okay? Chain Heal is the same thing. If it's not going to get the full benefit, if you're chain healing one target, gone are the days where you could do this. The famous scene of, I believe it was Mech from Insidia or SK Gaming at the time, standing on the kill Jaden, world first kill, just targeting himself and spamming chain heal. Endlessly, endlessly, endlessly doing that and actually topping the healing meters doing it. Gone are those days. Chain Heal is expensive. 9,000 mana a time. Yeah? So use it when it's going to get the full benefit. It's a great, great spell. It's a wonderful spell, and our talents and set bonuses augment that, so you want to take full advantage of it. And of course, we have Healing Rain. Wonderful spell. Not as expensive as a Chain Heal, interestingly enough. Look at Chain Heal, 9,000. Healing Rain, 7,000. Yeah, bear in mind, a Healing Rain is cheaper than a Chain Heal if you can get people to fucking stand in it. And there goes the problem with it. So, those are the general synergies we're talking about. So, let's look at how our talents work. At level 15, you generally want to pick up Astral Shift. Why? A big personal cooldown is just amazing for a Shaman. In a world where, and this is the world you live in, personal cooldowns are considered a raid cooldown. Yes. There will be times where the healing officer dictates to you, okay, this tantrum or whatever will be Healing Tide. The next one will be Spirit Link. The next one will be Devotion Aura. The next one will be Rallying Cry. The next one will be Amplify Magic. And then that one will come where it's personals. The raid needs to use them, and you need to be able to Astral Shift at that point. Take 40% less damage. Also saves your ass in dire moments. At level 30, it doesn't really matter. There is some call for Windwalk Totem on occasion. At level 45, I think it's mandatory to take Totemic Projection. I think you're crazy if you don't. Especially given the size of some of the WoD raids. They're huge arenas. So if we were to say our dummy here was a boss, You've got to remember that we can only drop totem at our feet. When we drop it, it drops at our feet. So if we drop a healing stream here and we're in a big circle around the boss over here, what about the guys at the back over by the tree? What we can do with totemic projection is shift our totem right over there, as you can see, and everybody gets the benefit, yeah? You're not just limiting it. Sometimes you'll want to limit it, and that's what makes you a good shaman, is you know the difference. You absolutely know the difference. What if I only want it to affect my side of the group? Then I can shift my totems way back. Yeah, so they're limited on who they're affecting. Very, very good shaman can control their totems and actively look for the best place to put their totems. And no longer, because of totemic projection, do you have to be like dragging your sorry fucking shaman ass all the way over there in order to place them, okay? At level 60, this is where your choices start coming in. Resto Shaman has this wonderful dual ability. Usually with the healers, as we've seen in the other healer guides we've done, is you have to tailor your talents to what you're doing. Are you tank healing or raid healing is kind of the two general ones. Actually, Shaman have a third tier, which is more playstyle orientated, which I absolutely adore. I think this is wonderful. Is you can pick and choose how you prefer to play through your talents and still get the same output with your current raid role. Right? And this is where the start of it happens. So these all generally give about the same output of this tier, whichever you prefer. Do you want on-demand haste? Perhaps there's a part of the fight that you prefer to have that, because it's a part of the fight where you're using things like Ascendance and doing a lot of chain healing and all that kind of stuff. So you prefer the extra mastery to get out some more chain heals. What about Ancestral Swiftness, which is my personal favorite? I get a passive 5% haste, and I also get the ability to go, holy shit, that guy nearly died, quick, there's a big instant cast healing surge, or something along those lines. Yeah, it's basically Nature's Swiftness or Ancestral Swiftness, which gives you an instant cast spell. Absolutely amazing. I love that for them holy shit moments. When DPS do fuck up, and of course, every now and again, people fuck up. Doesn't matter what level of raiding you are, and that instant cast heal can save some lives. Saves you a combat res, gets you a kill. Echo the Elements is the next one. Now, this is getting more and more attention as the raids go on. I happen to disagree with it personally. I know, who am I? But I do happen to disagree with it. What you get is 2 charges on Lava Burst, Riptide, Unleash, and Spirit Link Totem. Now, 2 charges on Riptide I feel is unnecessary. If you manage your Riptide correctly, and I'm talking without using the glyph, we'll mention more about the glyph if you don't know what I mean later, then you don't need this. You don't need 2 charges on your Riptide. You just don't. It helps you cover mistakes. There's no doubt about that. It absolutely helps you cover mistakes, but I don't think it's needed for Riptide. Do I need double Lava Burst? No. I'm a healer. I don't need that. Unleash Life. Unleash Life is actually extraordinarily weak. It's generally considered not to be casting this thing unless you're actually going to take it for its secondary effect, which is movement speed, okay? You get a 30% movement speed buff, because you can't heal while you're a doggy dog, but you can heal while you're using the movement speed of Unleash Life, okay? So bear in mind, Ghost Wolf gives you 30%, and Enhanced Unleash, when you cast it, gives you 30%. So no marks in science for working out which one is preferable. You want to be able to heal on the move while moving quickly. The big question is, do you need double Spirit Link Totem? And that is a good question. That is a really good question. Do you need double Spirit Link Totem? And that should be really the deciding factor on Echo the Elements, because of the reasons I've just explained. So if you do, Echo the Elements is actually quite cool. At level 75... Right, your choice is really going to be rushing streams or conductivity. Now, it really depends on the content you're doing. Generally, I like conductivity, okay? Because your healing wave, healing serve, and chain heal, more importantly, increase the duration of your healing rain. So you'll drop a healing rain, and it goes up to a maximum of an extra 30 seconds. And if you're constantly chain healing the targets, or chain healing people, then your healing rain just sticks around much longer. In WoD, however, the raid has to move a lot in a lot of fights. Okay, so this is something you can pick and choose between. There are many, many occasions when the raid will move around. And if you're doing LFR, which I've filmed some stuff for you guys in the next video in LFR, me trying to keep a tank or get melee or casters to even stay in one place for more than 2 seconds, you'd think there was fucking lava on the ground all the time. They just run around mindlessly, and conductivity loses a lot of power there. If people aren't staying in the healing rain, then there you go. In which case you take rushing streams, okay? Healing streams is something we generally drop on cooldown. So the fact that your healing stream will heal more and heal somebody else, fantastic. As I said, healing stream is something not only can you drop with a very short cooldown, just 30 seconds, but you can actually stick it closer to people and move it around and target it and do great things with it. So ordinarily, pick between one of the two. Level 90. Now, again, Unleash Fury, we already talked about Unleash Life. It's pretty garbage because Unleash Life is just not that great. It's a little bit sad, yeah, a little bit sad. Unleash Life is generally considered to actually be a HPS, healing per second, downer. It's actually worse to cast it than casting something else, so bear that in mind. Primal Elementalist, though, really cool. Primal Elementalist is super cool. Not only do your elements look more badass, but they're way more effective. The problem in this tier is Elemental Blast is way too powerful. I think it's just ridiculously too powerful, honestly, and it's just boring. One, it's a DPS spell that we can't cast at people. Why it doesn't heal people for healers, I don't know. Why can't I Elemental Blast somebody? That would be nice. But not only that, but it increases your spirit by 1,000 for 8 seconds on a 12-second cooldown. There go your mana issues. All gone. Yeah? So you get the bonus of either Haste, Mastery, or Multi-Strike. You see I got Mastery, but I also guaranteed to get the spirit buff. So good management of Elemental Blast. 2 thumbs fresh, your mana will barely ever be an issue, so bear that in mind. At level 100, you kind of have to take High Tide. One, you're going to be chain healing a lot. You are. You're naturally going to be chain healing a lot. That's going to happen. And your chain heal also bounces up to 2 additional targets, which means, this is why I don't think you need Riptide, is you're more than capable of keeping Riptide up on 3 targets without really trying too hard. And usually you'll pick the tanks. You can also then decide to chain heal through the tanks and get the extra bonus healing, which is affected by Riptide. Yeah, chain heal 25% buff. And you can pick and choose where your chain heal is going to go, and you can have more control of it. You kind of have to choose it. Cloudburst Totem is just, it's just so ineffectively useless. I've tried it. I played with it for a few hours and was just like, I just can't see the point in this thing without having to like really force its setup, which is just not practical in a raid. And Storm Ellie is just, it's pretty shit, guys. Honestly, it's pretty fucking garbage. Glyphs. Glyphs for Healing Stream. We're going to be dropping it pretty much on cooldown, so why not take 10% reduced damage from fire? Yeah, nature, rarely. Frost, rarely. But fire, yeah, a lot of that flying around these days. A Glyph of Spirit Walker's Grace. I consider this absolutely mandatory, honestly. I can't see how you could play without it. You do not need to be moving for fucking ever in any WoD Mythic, particularly. You don't need to be doing that. What you do need to do is move pretty regularly. So you need to move a bit and stop, a bit and stop. And having more access to Glyph of Spirit Walker's Grace, Spirit Walker, is great. Absolutely great. Glyph of Healing Wave. This is kind of your swappable one. As I said, we don't use Healing Wave a great deal, not to say we don't use it. And if you are going to heal someone, it's likely you'll probably need some healing, okay? So picking up that glyph is not going to be hurting you in any way, just to give you 10% of an extra heal on top of yourself. So it's worth mentioning here, because a lot of people are swearing by it. I actually think it's time to get rid of this fucking thing, is the glyph of Riptide. If you're taking High Tides, if you're smart, you can really be careful about where your chain heal is going, and making good use of that. If you start spamming Riptides with the Glyph of Riptide, which means your Riptide has no cooldown, you lose a lot of that control. And a good healer likes control, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't want the game playing for me if I can help it. And when I Riptide and I get that little bursty 10k heal or whatever, that's quite nice, because I'm usually Riptiding someone who needs topping up a little bit, while other people are also throwing their rejuves or whatever on them. So having that on there and being able to pick and choose my targets, especially in conjunction with High Tide, I think is pretty cool. So I don't use it anymore, and I haven't missed it. Just get used to controlling it. It's just a 5-second cooldown. Every spec in the game has something that's like a 5-second cooldown that you have to use, so it's not hard to get used to it at all. So, how do we play? It's obviously difficult for me to show you here, which is why I recommend you watch the accompanying gameplay video. Okay, a couple of things. Healing Stream, we do generally want to drop on cooldown. You obviously want to be very aware of your Earth Shield. Have some way of nicely tracking it, okay? If I show you my buttons here, you can see I have all my cooldowns lined up. Healing Stream, Healing Tide when that's off cooldown. Healing Rain, sorry, Healing Tide. Unleash is there because I do use it for the movement speed. Spirit Link, Ancestral Swiftness. My Riptide is on a larger notification, as you can see there. And here is actually an Earth Shield notification. It tells me when my Earth Shield is about to run out, should that be the case. And of course, Elemental Blast. So, we obviously want Elemental Blast. So you'll get used to managing your Riptide kind of on cooldown and your Elemental Blast in order to keep looking after your mana and boosting those mastery stats and all that kind of stuff. What you also need to be aware of is your big cooldowns, because you have access to quite a few of them. Ascendance, Healing Tide, and Spirit Link are super powerful. Bear in mind that your Spirit Link not only rebalances people's health, which most people think that's what Spirit Link does on its own, but it looks cool, and it also reduces the damage taken by 10%. Not great, but pretty good, right? 10% isn't amazing, but it's alright. It's alright. It's not terrible. Ascendance transforms into a Water Ascendant for 15 seconds. While in this form, all heals done is duplicated and distributed, which is why it's nice to parry that up with other abilities and powers and trinkets and all that kind of stuff if you're boosting spell power in some way. And Healing Tide is a tremendous output healing cooldown when everyone's dying. So you have access to all those things, so you need to pick and choose the areas of the fight where you'll want to use them. Yeah? You want to be able to do that. and you'll get good benefits from that. Keep an eye on your healing stream. Now, Mora-Case is right tool for the right job. What you'll find happens pretty regularly in WoD is you have these major points of huge damage, usually to the raid or to the tank or something like that. And it's what you do in the meantime. What if I'm in this scenario where I can't really do anything? Okay, nobody needs healing. This is the time where you need to manage your other spells. Manage things like refreshing Earth Shield early, checking which tank is tanking if your tanks haven't announced it or you haven't noticed. Keep checking. Just get into the habit of checking who's tanking, who's tanking. Have some way of your raid notifications telling you who has aggro or some target of target or something along those lines, so you're checking that. You have a checklist of things to do every time you have no straight up healing to do. Yeah? Checking things like Earth Shield. And if you don't have anything to do, start doing DPS. You'll notice my DPS spells are here. So yes, I am going to be using Elemental Blast. Also use things like your Fire Totem and certainly Lava Bursts and Lightning Bolts. This is regenning you mana, okay? Notice, Lava Burst costs nothing. Costs no mana. Flame Shot costs nothing. Lightning Bolt doesn't cost anything. These don't cost you mana. These are spells that you can just be casting while you're waiting, doing some damage. Your DPS is horrific. Really bad. But it's better than being this derper who's spamming his mana away on healing waves that are effectively doing 0. So there's nothing worse than just wasting and throwing your mana away. Don't be that guy. If the Disc Priests are bubbling all the damage, then so be it. Okay, so that's the general idea. Pick and choose the right tool for the right job. So let's jump into some gameplay. Then we'll do some Blackhand and see how all that plays out. Alright guys, thank you very much for listening. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.